New details tonight on whether former President Trump will take part in this week's presidential debate as Governor Doug Burgum prepares for the event. Joe Skrzyszewski is on the ground in Milwaukee and brings us the latest from the campaign trail.
For the candidates competing in this week's Republican presidential debate in Milwaukee, they'll likely be flying in right behind me at General Mitchell International Airport. One of the candidates competing in the debate is North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum. The governor making an appearance Sunday morning on NBC's Meet the Press with Chuck Todd. The host of the show pressing Governor Burgum on his thoughts on whether former President Trump should be running for president again with all the legal cases over his head. Governor Burgum doubling down on his take.
I know from the private sector, when we were launching our little company that we then built over a period of time into a billion-dollar company, you don't start out by attacking the market share leader. You start by telling people what you've got to offer. You don't have a basis to launch that. And like I said, there'll be segment after segment on every channel this morning, all the pundits lined up. And I'm not running for pundit, I'm running for president.
And we now know that former President Trump will not be competing in the debate in Milwaukee. The former president posting on his social media page Sunday evening that he will not be participating in the debate. However, one of his staunch supporters will be making an appearance at the debate. The Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel reporting this week that Kari Lake will be traveling to Milwaukee to attend the debate as a guest. Now, our coverage of all things Republican presidential debates is really just beginning. We're going to be bringing you reports all throughout the week. In Milwaukee, Wisconsin, I'm Joe Skrzyszewski reporting for your news leader.
National security, drugs, and the southern border are expected to be hot-button issues for the candidates taking part in Wednesday's Republican presidential debate. Joe Skrzyszewski is on the ground in Milwaukee and brings us more from his talk with Governor Burgum.
One of the big issues that Governor Doug Burgum is emphasizing during his presidential campaign is national security and the issue with drugs across our country. During my conversation with him, I had a chance to talk with him about how he's incorporating those plans into his campaign. He talked about his recent visit to the southern border in our talk.
We have an open border. There's people who are crossing the border across the Rio Grande right while we stood there down there, and there is not, the Biden administration is not treating this like the humanitarian crisis it is. They're not treating it like the national security crisis it is, because in the last 2 years we've had over 200,000 overdose deaths in America. 70% of those are fentanyl poisonings. That fentanyl is originating in China, coming through the Mexican border. That's like 4 Vietnams worth of loss of life. We're taking mass casualties in the United States right now.
We'll have more of my conversation with Governor Doug Burgum throughout this week. In Milwaukee, Wisconsin, I'm Joe Skrzyszewski reporting for your news leader.
For many of the presidential hopefuls competing in Wednesday's Republican debate is a pivotal moment for them to make first impressions on voters. Joe Skrzyszewski reports from the site of the debate in Milwaukee.
Wednesday night, North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum will join several other presidential hopefuls on the stage inside the Pfizer Forum behind me for the first Republican presidential primary debate. Now, for the governor, this will be his first chance to make his case before a national audience. I spoke with John Mercure with WTMJ Radio in Milwaukee on what Governor Burgum and other lesser-known candidates in the race need to do to make themselves well-known before a national audience.
You know, it's critical for them to be aggressive. It's critical for them to come out, and I hate one-liners, I hate gotcha politics, but they need to do something memorable. They need to do something to distinguish themselves from the other candidates. I mean, they're all chasing the dog from behind. If you want to pass the dog and be on the other side of the dog, you got to bark a little bit. So they need to come out and make some noise, make a difference, distinguish themselves. There's going to be 7, 8, 9 people on the stage. That's a lot. So how do you break through? How do you strongly make your point and be interesting at the same time?
We'll continue to bring you coverage of all things debate throughout the week. At the Republican presidential debate in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, I'm Joe Skrzyszewski reporting for your news leader.
Many of the presidential candidates, including Governor Doug Burgum, will likely use their experience as governors to explain why they should be the next president. Joe Skrzyszewski reports from the site of the debate in Milwaukee.
This first Republican presidential debate in many ways will be a pivotal moment for many of the candidates as they look to make a first impression on the American people. I spoke with our Gray Washington Bureau's Molly Martinez to see what she's looking for in the debate.
Being a governor is essentially being president of the state. And so that is a good resume builder for actual presidency. And so being a governor is a unique position of really
helming a huge operation. And I think it speaks to if they were effective governors in their state, they could certainly lean on that as a strategy that would be a transferable skill to be an effective president.
We'll have continuing coverage of all things debate throughout the week. At the Republican presidential debate, I'm Joe Skrzyszewski reporting for your news leader.
What are people looking for in our next president?
Joe Skrzyszewski asked North Dakotans what they're hoping to see in the Republican debate tomorrow.
Throughout our coverage leading up to this primary debate in Milwaukee, we've spoken with analysts, pundits, and even Governor Doug Burgum himself. But we wanted to know what you, the North Dakota citizen, are looking for leading into this debate. Here's what some of you had to say.
Nikki Haley is going to be a good candidate to listen to. Tim Scott is a great candidate to listen to. So my hope for Governor Burgum is that he has a strong showing at the debate. He continues to grow in momentum. It's kind of like rooting for the home team.
As far as, looking at stuff for tax purposes, looking at, billing and what money's going to, what money's being allocated to go where, and being sure that it goes to those areas that they say that it's going to.
Authenticity, I think, is the big thing. The way the country is going right now, I think that we have to be positive, and I hope that they're very positive about things.
We'll have more coverage leading up to the debate, as well as reaction and wrap up Wednesday night and into Thursday. At the Republican presidential debate in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, I'm Joe Skrzyszewski reporting for your news leader.
The leading Republican presidential candidate, former President Trump, will not be on the debate stage tomorrow night in Milwaukee.
That will likely give Governor Burgum a greater chance to distinguish himself from the others. Joe Skrzyszewski breaks it down for us, along with reaction from supporters for the lead candidate.
We now know the names of the candidates that will be joining North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum on the stage for this first Republican presidential primary debate. The Republican National Committee releasing the full list Tuesday morning. Joining Governor Burgum will be former Vice President Mike Pence, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, former Ambassador Nikki Haley, businessman and entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy, Senator Tim Scott, former Governor Asa Hutchinson, and former Governor Chris Christie. Fox News reporting Tuesday that Governor Burgum's podium on the stage will be on the far right end if you're looking for him. Now, a lot of the discussion has been about the one person who's not going to be on the stage. That's former President Donald Trump, who announced he would not be attending this debate and likely skipping future ones as well. I had the opportunity to speak with some Trump supporters who are visiting Milwaukee for the debate, and they had some things you might find interesting to say about this debate and the candidates who are taking part.
I think that we need more people that are from small town America to make small town America known. I mean, my city where I'm from, we've never had a president visit the town except for JFK when he was campaigning, and that was a very small event. So small town America is kind of being ignored by a lot of the people who are going to be on that stage tonight. But I think Doug Burgum is actually going to be able to touch on small town America.
We're going to bring you continuing coverage of all things debate here throughout this week. The debate starts at 8 p.m. Central Time here in Milwaukee, and it's broadcast on Fox News. At the Republican presidential debate in Milwaukee, I'm Joe Skrzyszewski reporting for your news leader.
We're just hours away from the first GOP presidential debate. Governor Doug Burgum and 7 other Republican candidates will take the stage in Milwaukee tonight.
We wanted to know what people in Wisconsin are looking for on the debate stage and how familiar they are with Governor Doug Burgum. Joe Skrzyszewski hit the streets to find out.
Leading up to this debate, I had the chance to hit the ground here and speak with some Milwaukee area citizens about what they're looking for from this first Republican presidential primary debate. Here's what a few of them had to say.
I want to hear their issues, what they believe in. I have a feeling, though, they're going to all be attacking Trump, and it's going to probably go that direction because he is way out in the lead.
I want people to focus on what they want to do and not each other. And leave each other alone unless there's an issue that really has to be brought out about another. That's okay, but I want to hear what they're going to do and what they have to say.
I would just like to hear more from each candidate on their stances. I've been watching basic statements, but I'd like to maybe hear different ones.
Now, for many of the people that I spoke with in the Milwaukee area, I did a little exercise. I showed them this picture and asked them who this is. Not many people could identify this as Governor Doug Burgum. One person recognized him as a governor but didn't know the name. Another person confused him with former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson. So that just goes to show how crucial this moment is for Governor Burgum to make a name for himself for viewers outside the confines of the Peace Garden state. Reporting to you live from the Republican presidential debate in Milwaukee, I'm Joe Skrzyszewski reporting for your news leader.
Governor Doug Burgum has been planning to take part in tonight's presidential debate in Milwaukee, but his status tonight is suddenly up in the air. Joe Skrzyszewski joins us live from the site of tonight's debate with the latest on the governor's status. Joe?
Yeah, good afternoon, Krista. That's right. Tonight's debate is a major opportunity for Governor Doug Burgum to make his case as why he should be the Republican nominee for president for the first time before a national audience. But we learned this morning that last night the governor was playing in a pickup basketball game with some members of his team, went up for either a shot or a rebound and came down and hurt one of his legs. In fact, he had to go to the emergency room for some treatment, but he has been since discharged from the emergency room. Now, moments ago, I did an interview with his campaign manager, Lance Trover, who told me that the governor has been recovering all day. He is hoping to do the candidate walkthrough early this afternoon and then make a decision from there as to if he can stand in tonight's debate. Here's some more of my conversation with Lance.
I'm told he's in good spirits this morning, and again, hoping to make that walkthrough this afternoon, and then we'll make a final judgment call as to whether he can be on the stage. Obviously, it's a 2-hour debate, so standing on a leg that's been injured for 2 hours, that's something he's going to have to really take a hard look at, and we'll do this afternoon.
And it goes without saying there's a lot at stake here, a lot of effort's gone into this, and this is the governor's first chance to make an impression before a national audience. So if for some reason he weren't able to stand, could you speak on if they would make any accommodations for him, like if he'd be able to sit? How does that work?
Well, I don't think we're that far along yet. I think we need to get through, hopefully get through this walkthrough this afternoon and then make an assessment and a judgment call then before we get into any of that stuff tonight. I mean, hopefully he's going to get through that walkthrough. Hopefully he's going to be on that debate stage tonight talking about his priorities for America, the economy, energy, national security, everything he's been running on the last 10 weeks. So we're hopefully he's going to be there.
Now, we haven't been able to confirm specifically how the governor injured his leg. We haven't been able to get details on that, and we also don't know what time that walkthrough is this afternoon. But once the governor attempts that candidate walkthrough, we should have an answer either way as to whether he will be able to take part in tonight's debate. Whether the governor takes part or not, we are going to be bringing you continuing coverage of all things debate from the candidates and everything in between. At the Republican presidential debate in Milwaukee, I'm Joe Skrzyszewski reporting for your news leader.
North Dakotans, of course, waiting to see Governor Doug Burgum on the debate stage.
Right.
Joe Skrzyszewski is live in Milwaukee for us today. Joe, some big news out of there. Governor Burgum hurt his leg. Tell us about that. He was playing basketball.
Yeah, that's right, Monica and Kevin. So we found out this morning that last night North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum injured his leg during a pickup basketball game with some members of his crew. What happened was he went up for a rebound or a shot, came down, and suffered a partial tear of one of his Achilles. Now, he made an appearance in the spin room in the area here at the Pfizer Forum in Milwaukee and spoke briefly with some media this afternoon. He was on crutches. He looked like he was in good spirits, got a little emotional for a moment, but he said that he was not taking any pain medication. And I've been speaking with his campaign manager this afternoon, and that he was going to see an orthopedist. The last I had heard from him moments before the 4 o'clock news was we should have an answer very soon as to whether the governor will be able to take part in this debate. Now, Fox News had reported that he was going to be in the debate. We haven't been able to confirm that yet, though I'm still communicating with the governor's team on that. This is an important moment for Governor Burgum and his campaign because as one of the lesser-known candidates in the race, this is a pivotal opportunity for him to make a name for himself in this election. I went around the city of Milwaukee and spoke with some everyday citizens in the Milwaukee area to find out if they knew anything about him. Turns out not a lot of people in the area actually know who Doug Burgum is. Listen in. Do you happen to know who this individual is?
No, I don't.
No?
No.
What if I told you that he was actually one of the candidates in the debate?
Did he just jump in?
Recently, but not just jumped in. Do you happen to know who this person is?
He's the governor of North Dakota. I don't recall his name, though.
Do you happen to know who this person is?
Yeah. Maybe. Do you know who that is?
Yes.
You know who that is?
Sure.
Yeah. Who is he?
Asa Hutchinson.
That's Asa Hutchinson?
Oh, no, that's our governor. Oh. Who is that?
So this is Doug Burgum. He's the governor of North Dakota.
Oh, the governor of North Dakota.
Yeah. Do you happen to know who this person is?
Actually, you got me there. No, I don't.
Yeah. What if I told you he was
after Wednesday, I might, right?
Yeah. What if I told you he's running for president?
Okay.
Well, do you happen to know who this person is?
No, I don't. No.
No. What if I told you he was running for president?
Well, that would scare me because I haven't seen his face or anywhere or anything he has to say.
Do you know who this person is?
Yes, I do.
Now, who is that?
That is Doug Burgum. He is the governor of North Dakota.
Okay. Did you know who that was?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Doug Burgum, governor of North Dakota.
Yeah, all right. Had a little fun with this. I had to throw in an interview with my mom and dad. They're Bill and Carol. Of course, they watch our news, so they know who Doug is. But that interview just goes to show you a litmus test of if Doug wants his campaign to get traction beyond this, he's got to get a name for himself out there beyond the friendly confines of the Peace Garden State. And I also do, of course, want to give a shout out to my parents, Bill and Carol. I'm shooting all these stories by myself, so they actually helped me with that segment and helping me with carrying around equipment. So we're going to have continuing coverage of all things debate here going into the late afternoon and evening, including the status of Governor Doug Burgum and if he's able to make it on the stage. Reporting from the Republican presidential debate in a hot 100 degrees temperature at the Pfizer Forum, I'm Joe Skrzyszewski reporting for your news leader.
Tonight is the first chance for Republican presidential hopefuls, including our own governor, Doug Burgum, to make their case before a national audience. This comes as our governor is trying to recover from an injury last night so he can stand on the debate stage tonight. Joe Skrzyszewski joins us live from the site of the debate in Milwaukee. Joe, do we yet know if the governor can make it tonight?
Yeah, good evening, Monica. Just moments ago, we learned that Governor Doug Burgum will be taking part in tonight's debate stage here in Milwaukee. Now, this comes after the governor partially tore one of his Achilles tendons during a pickup basketball game with members of his team last night. Now, the governor took to his X page this afternoon with a picture of him walking into the arena on his crutches. In the caption, just two words: "I'm in." Earlier in the day, Burgum made a brief appearance in the spin zone room where he spoke to the media and fought back tears talking about what happened.
I've never taken prescription pain meds, and I'm not doing that today, even though people said that'd be a good idea, because I'd rather so many Americans make so many sacrifices. Think of law enforcement, think of military, what they do for all of us. I mean, if you're going to lead this country, you ought to be able to stand on one leg for 2 hours.
Manager Lance Trover, if the RNC is making any special accommodations for him to take the load off of his leg. Lance said the governor intends to stand. There will be a stool to sit on during breaks. So once again, Governor Doug Burgum will be taking part in tonight's Republican presidential primary debate, a crucial moment for his campaign to introduce himself to a national audience. We will bring you live coverage of the debate and Doug Burgum's performance throughout the night. At the Republican presidential primary debate in Milwaukee, I'm Joe Skrzyszewski reporting for your news leader.
Joe Skrzyszewski has been on the ground all this week in Milwaukee.
He had the chance to speak with Governor Burgum ahead of tonight's debate. He joins us now from the debate site in Milwaukee with more. Joe?
Yeah, that's right, Ellen and Monica. Now that we know that Governor Doug Burgum's Achilles heel will not be his Achilles heel, that gives us a chance, at least for now, to focus more on the issues Earlier last week, leading up to this debate, I had the opportunity to have a one-on-one conversation with the governor about his take on a variety of issues and his preparation for the debate, from national security to the Donald Trump question to his thoughts on making a first impression. Here's the highlights of our discussion. What do you want your first impression to be to the American people when you address them at the debate next week?
Well, I think the big objective for us is just to be ourselves. I mean, when they see someone who grew up in a small town in North Dakota, someone who working on the farm, working at the grain elevator, working on the ranch, working at jobs where I took a shower at the end of the day instead of the beginning of the day. I think Americans are really yearning for the opportunity to have somebody who's got small town common sense.
If my math is right here, 5 of them, yourself included, are either current or former governors of a state. What sets Doug Burgum apart from a lot of the other candidates at this stage in the process?
The real distinction is the private sector experience. I mean, what we've talked about, but the fact that I spent 30 plus years making payroll. I've been making payroll every 2 weeks since I was in my mid-20s. I understand what it's like to cut my own pay to make sure you got enough money to pay your team members.
Does his presence or absence change your strategy or approach to this debate?
Doesn't change anything for us in terms of our approach. And I think, competition is great for the Republican Party. Competition is great for America. And I think every campaign gets to decide, how they want to approach their campaign. And we have an open border. There's people who are crossing the border across the Rio Grande right while we stood there down there. And the Biden administration is not treating this like the humanitarian crisis it is. They're not treating it like the national security crisis it is, because in the last 2 years, we've had over 200,000 overdose deaths in America. 70% of those are fentanyl poisonings. That fentanyl is originating in China, coming through the Mexican border. That's like 4 Vietnams worth of loss of life. We're taking mass casualties in the United States right now.
And we'll have highlights from tonight's debate and recap of the event throughout tonight and into Thursday morning. At the Republican presidential primary debate in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, I'm Joe Skrzyszewski reporting for your news leader.
In a small town, neighbors help neighbors. People understand each other. If a farmer gets sick, everybody comes together and helps them get the crop off. There's accountability, there's transparency. One thing that I think this country could use is somebody in the White House that understands small town values, because that's our road back to get this country on track again.
Governor Burgum was among 8 candidates who faced off for 2 hours in Milwaukee tonight in the first Republican primary debate of the 2024 presidential campaign. They were positioned on stage according to their standings in the polls. Tonight was their chance to distinguish themselves. Noticeably absent tonight was the front-runner, former President Trump.
Joe Skrzyszewski has been live on the ground in Milwaukee this week. He joins us from the site of the debate with more. Joe?
Yeah, good evening, Monica. That's right. When Governor Doug Burgum, he didn't get a chance to speak in the debate until about 20 minutes or so into the program. But when he got his chance, he weighed in on a variety of topics, from the rise in national crime to the abortion issue to energy and everything in between. Now, back to the abortion issue, that discussion came up. It became a point of contention between many of the candidates as to whether there should be a federal ban on certain abortions or if that issue should be left completely to the states. Governor Doug Burgum defending his stance on not imposing the federal abortion ban if he was elected, saying it should stay with the states.
The feds are stepping into people's lives. They're stepping into people's businesses over and over. If we say that the feds should be in on this one, where do we stop? I say that we follow the Constitution and this is returned to the states. This is where it should be.
Now, in a more lighthearted moment in tonight's debate, the governor took a moment to make fun of himself, if you will, with the incident that happened Tuesday night where he tore his Achilles tendon. The torn Achilles put tonight's appearance in jeopardy, but the governor did push through.
But when they were all wishing me well, and I think I took them a little too literally when they said, go to Milwaukee and break a leg.
Now, there were countless highlights from tonight's debate, not only from our governor, but from the other 7 candidates on the stage, including some fiery interactions between businessman Vivek Ramaswamy and a few of the other candidates. And I'm going to bring you highlights of the debate throughout tomorrow morning. But for now, in Milwaukee at the Republican presidential primary debate, I'm Joe Skrzyszewski reporting for your news leader.
Last night's debate was a pivotal moment for North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum to make an impression on a national audience. Joe Skrzyszewski has been reporting on the ground in Milwaukee this week and brings us some of the highlights of the governor's night.
The eyes of the political world were on Milwaukee, Wisconsin Wednesday night as 8 presidential hopefuls took the stage in the first Republican presidential primary debate. Now, the big question for people in North Dakota was, how would Governor Doug Burgum do in this debate?
They were all wishing me well, and I think I took them a little too literally when they said, go to Milwaukee and break a leg. We've got a plan right now, the $1.2 trillion of Green New Deal spending buried in the Inflation Creation Act is something that is just subsidizing China. If we're going to stop buying oil from the Middle East and start buying batteries from China, we're just trading OPEC for Sinopec. The feds are stepping into people's lives. They're stepping into people's businesses. Over and over, if we say that the Fed should be in on this one, where do we stop? I say that we follow the Constitution, and this is return to the states. This is where it should be. Ukraine is an example of when deterrence fail. What is an example there of Biden's disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, the fact that he green-lighted Putin moving into Ukraine, and then now they see weakness, and when they see weakness, they make a move. And we have to be strong, and we have to be strong both in Ukraine, and we can solve the southern border. Absolutely, we can do that. Some school districts are doing a fantastic job, some less so. But the idea that every school district in the state and every teacher is somehow indoctrinating people is just false. A lot of noise tonight, not as much signal, I think, as what Americans would maybe want to hear, because as a party, we've got to make sure that we're focusing on the things that matter to most Americans. And these are things like inflation, like national security, like what they're paying for the price of gas at the pump.
The next debate is September 27th in Simi Valley, California. Now, the reason why Milwaukee is so significant is because the Republican National Convention will be right back here at the Pfizer Forum next summer. At the Republican presidential debate in Milwaukee, I'm Joe Skrzyszewski reporting for your news leader.
8 candidates, not including former President Donald Trump, took part in the first Republican presidential debate last night.
Joe Skrzyszewski has been reporting from Milwaukee all week and brings us highlights from the debate.
Wednesday night's Republican presidential primary debate was a pivotal moment for many of the candidates to make a first impression on the American people at the beginning of this election cycle.
Our country is in decline. This decline is not inevitable, it's a choice. We need to send Joe Biden back to his basement and reverse American decline.
We cut taxes in New Jersey. We cut debt in New Jersey. We made sure that each and every time we were confronted with bad democratic ideas, we stood and stopped them. And when there were good ideas, we brought people together to make progress going forward.
I believe in the people of this country to tell the difference between somebody who's an automaton and somebody who's actually a thinking agent in the White House, which we don't have in there today. And I will tell you, I want to address Vice President Pence's comment. I think we do need somebody of a different generation to lead this nation forward.
These are taxpayer dollars. It's not their dollars. And while they're all saying this, you have Ron DeSantis, you've got Tim Scott, you've got Mike Pence. They all voted to raise the debt. And Donald Trump added $8 trillion to our debt. And our kids are never going to forgive us for this.
I was a House conservative leader before it was cool. I actually pushed a Deficit Reduction Act. That was the last time we actually reduced the national debt in the United States, when I was the leader of House Conservatives. I balanced budgets and cut taxes when I was governor.
And Ukraine is an example of when deterrence fail. What is an example there of Biden's disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, the fact that he green-lighted Putin moving into Ukraine, and then now they see weakness, and when they see weakness, they make a move.
Now, the next primary debate is just over a month from now on September 27th in Simi Valley, California, and the factors to qualify for that debate go up. They keep going up for every debate. So it remains to be seen which of these candidates in this debate we may see just a month from now. At the Republican presidential debate in Milwaukee, I'm Joe Skrzyszewski reporting for your news leader.